friends and welcome to the channel. I'm Olivia, and if you've never seen my face before, you can consider me your fragrance fairy godmother. So while you guys are watching this video, I am actually in Italy. I am attending the world's largest perfume convention in Milan called Essence, and I'm gonna take a little bit of time to explore Italy so that way I can find all of the best Italian goods and let you guys know about them. But I pre-filmed this week's video so that way we can have our weekly dose of smell goods. And while I was packing and getting ready for this trip, I thought to myself, I am going to be in a plane, on a bus, on a train, in a taxi, and I'm going to be in close quarters with people. Now, I've had some of you tell me before that you simply do not care how other people feel about your fragrance, and that if they are in the line of fire of your fragrances, that is their business. I take a little bit of a different approach because I am a hairdresser during the day, and it's not always the most comfortable situation if someone's wearing a thick, looming fragrance floating right 6 inches above your head. You know what I mean? So I personally have a massive collection of your skin but better subtle fragrances. And I really like fragrances like this because they're not loud or brash or screaming your name, but rather when you get a little bit of wind behind you, people get a slight whiff of you and think to themselves, ooh, that person smells amazing, but they don't necessarily know it's perfume. So if that's the kind of vibe that you're going for, you're in the right place. So go to the kitchen, get yourself a little snack, a little something to sip on, and sit down because it's time to get into the fragrances. We're gonna start off with the most budget-friendly of the group, a fragrance that I've talked about many times, and this is 000 by Le Monde Gourmand. If you like G Water by Byredo, this is along the similar lines. This is going to be a fresh and creamy citrus fragrance. It's got a sandalwood that gives this milky, smooth, sweet sort of feel, and a bergamot that makes it very refreshing and tangy. I'm really impressed by this fragrance, and this is only $25. Now, the longevity isn't great, but for $25 and a little small bottle, I don't mind to chuck this in my bag and reapply, especially when I'm in a situation where I don't need my fragrance to scream. This is good for running errands, going to the gym, or if you're gonna be tightly packed on a plane. And next is Salt Air by Skylar. Oh my God, if you guys haven't tried this fragrance yet, I have talked about it time and time again because I love it so much. This smells like the fresh, salty breeze rolling off of the ocean, but linens that are drying in the sun. There's this subtle and fresh, kind of drier sheet sort of feel, so it smells like clean laundry without smelling too floral, and there's this beautiful, refreshing saltiness to it. This is easily one of my favorites from the House of Skylar because it's fresh and uplifting and simple, and it's just a dumb reach. Easygoing, straightforward, super effective. Next is Way with Woods by Snip. Now this is going to be more of a subtle, earthy fragrance. It has sandalwood, white tea, and vetiver, giving it this slightly dry, earthy, hay-like experience. And then in comes a very soft and subtle powdery musk, and there is just a little touch of some ambery sweetness in the dry down. It's a little bit tangy with some citrus, but it's a very subtle tea, woody fragrance with a little bit of sweetness and a really easy wear. Next is Extra Milk by Dead Cool. This is a soft and simple powdery white musk fragrance. There's a little bit of warmth coming from some amber and a little bit of bright sparkling quality in the beginning from some bergamot. And while I really enjoyed this one on its own, I use this as a layering tool to help bolster my fragrances and make them last longer. So I almost specifically use this on days where I need a little extra help or I just want something ultra simple and straightforward. It's one of those fragrances that really reacts with your chemistry and creates a warm, comforting sort of feel. Something that's going to be quite similar but in an oil form is the original oil from Riddle. Now this is marketed as a pheromone fragrance, but I don't really believe in pheromones in fragrances, but I do think that there are fragrances that work really well with a lot of people's chemistry. It's just a simple, warm amber musk fragrance that can be worn alone or it can be worn layered, and I use these two in combination to make any fragrance sparkle and last longer. And although I love this oil, it creates this soft, sweet, warm experience on the skin. It is quite pricey, and a lot of people have said that the Niemat Amber is a similar yet a more affordable dupe. But I personally am completely anosmic to the Amber Nemat oil. I cannot smell it whatsoever, which is bizarre because I have a friend that wears it, and when she wears it, it smells incredible on her and I can actually smell it. But when I wear it on myself, I can't smell it, and I can smell this one the entire day. But with that being said, some people are anosmic to this one as well, so you would have to try it for yourself and see. If you're interested in this one, I would highly suggest trying their Discovery set that has a bunch of minis of all of their different fragrances. They're really good, but I would try a little one first just to make sure that you are not anosmic to it, because it is quite an expensive fragrance. Another one that is going to be a molecular, airy sort of second skin fragrance is Not a Perfume by Juliet Has a Gun. This fragrance is going to be really, really good for allergies because this is a singular note perfume. That note is Cetilox, and that is a synthetic version of ambergris. Ambergris is a waxy substance that comes from the intestinal tract of a sperm whale, and because it's an animal byproduct, it is not commonly used in fragrances anymore, but in early perfumery, it was known for its animalic, musky, and very fixative qualities, making fragrances last for a super long time. And because this is a single note, it's going to be incredibly different on every person that wears it. And your experience with it can be even different from day to day. In my experience, this creates a soft, woody, airy sort of fragrance. Some days it can smell a little bit more sweet and powdery, but I will give the fair warning that some people say that they cannot smell this whatsoever, and some people that can smell it say that it smells like hospital to them. Now that's not my personal experience, but I want to give that as a fair warning for anyone that wants to try this. If you can't smell it, you might be the type of person whose nose does not register quite a large molecule. And I often see Not a Gun compared to Another 13 by Le Labo, but I personally find that this one is quite a bit different on me. And although this is a pricey fragrance, when I tell you that this is money well spent, I find this to be an absolute staple in my collection. If you're looking into niche fragrances, this would absolutely be one of the first ones that I guide you towards. This also has the note of Cetilox, giving it that airy, woody sort of quality, but this has the note of Ambretolide that's going to give it a little bit more of a depth and a warmth. It has an Bret that's going to give it this sweet, slightly nutty, toasted quality. But all in all, I would describe this as smelling super, super sexy. Your nose doesn't automatically register this as a perfume, but rather that the person themselves smell like a god. This is a compliment getter on its own, but you can layer this with absolutely anything to level it up. And if you don't have this already and you try it out, trust me when I say what it smells like on paper is not how it's going to smell on your body. It rarely is, but this one in particular has to warm up to your body. And I actually have another one from Le Labo that I think would be great for this, and that is Ambret number 9. Ambret is a really interesting note because a lot of people perceive it differently, but in this fragrance, to me, it is a little bit sweet, a little bit toasted, and it almost gives a slightly banana-esque scent. Just like the scent of banana bread wafting in the air. Not like you're smelling artificial banana candy or even a banana close up. It's just that warm, slightly sweet, slightly nutty scent that you get wafting in the air. This one is super duper cozy, and I love to wear this when I just want to relax and I want to smell good, but I don't want anything that's overwhelming. Think of a rainy day, or maybe a day that you just need a little extra comfort. That is great for this. And if you want an extremely long-lasting molecular fragrance that you only need 1 to 2 sprays of, that would be this Cheeky Smile by Juicebox. And this is a warm amber dominant fragrance with notes of ISOE Super and Ambroxan, so you're getting a similar sort of feel. But this is like all of the aforementioned fragrances on steroids. And this one is a lot more woody on my skin than the other ones. It's very dry smelling, but it does have a little bit of that warmth from the amber. And this would be perfect if you have a very long day ahead of you and you want to smell good for 16 hours, but you have no time to reapply, and you want a fragrance that is noticeable, but not something that is going to read as perfumey or overwhelming. So this is an interesting fragrance because it is a subtle scent profile that performs like beast mode. A little bit of a conundrum, but also a very good fragrance. And the last one I have in my collection that has that molecular sort of feel is a brand new one, and this is called Super Solid by Binaural. This is a very bizarre fragrance because this feels futuristic. There's something almost a little bit cold and metallic about it while having warming characteristics as well. There is a soft and cooling aromatic lavender that does not come off medicinal or scratchy or overwhelming, but then in comes some warming notes such as labdanum that give it a soft, floral suede sort of touch, and an ambroxan and amber. This feels icy cold in the beginning, but then warms up on the skin and gives a very unique experience. I like these and they feel metallic and cold and futuristic. They're very fun. But if you're going for something that is going to be subtle but give a little bit of a spicy warming characteristic, we're going with Lumiere Blanc. The spiciness is coming from a very noticeable star anise, which would typically not really be my thing because it's a little bit too licoricey for me, but it's warmed up and made a little bit spicy with some cardamom. And I find cardamom to be the most comforting scent. It just adds this little fuzzy cashmere blanket around you. There's also a little bit of cinnamon, but it's very subtle, so if you're not into cinnamon, don't worry. This is also quite powdery, coming from some almond and iris, giving it that slight makeup-y touch. But then in the base, you have a really cozy, creamy sandalwood. It's warm and spicy, it's powdery, creamy, and a little bit woody. And interestingly enough, when I wear this on skin, I get something that is slightly reminiscent of cumin, just a little bit. I know that note scares you guys, but it shouldn't because it smells so good on the skin. You know when you hug someone after a long day and you've been missing them and you smell the sweet scent of their skin and it just has that natural appeal? That's what this kind of gives me. Now, if we want something that has that vintage cosmetics, powdery, almost waxy touch, we're going with Sonic Flower. This has an orris that makes it very fluffy and creamy and powdery, very, very powdery. There's a little bit of spice in the beginning coming from some pink pepper that fades away quite quick because it's not my favorite note. And there are some subtle hits of floral coming from some jasmine. If you were a fan of the original version of Glossier You, when it used to be super strong and last a long time, this is going to be what you're looking for. It has that second skin feel. It's a little bit powdery, a little bit spicy, and it lasts a super long time. This is like the current day Glossier You on steroids. And I know you guys are gonna think I'm a little bit crazy for this one, but hear me out. Chanel No. 5 Low. Now, before everyone slanders Chanel No. 5 on my channel, let me explain that this is their modern day iteration. So this is nowhere near as floral and nowhere near as vintage as the original. Which, by the way, the original is not really even around anymore because apparently that one smelled incredibly different than what we have on the market today. It's gone through a bunch of different reformulations. But this one right here has that aldehydic smell that is going to give a vintage appeal that smells sparkling and soapy, and this one comes off a lot more citrusy. So they've dialed back the deeper florals and the amber, and this one smells like a fresh bubble bath with a little bit of a vintage touch. It's soapy, it's powdery, it's sparkling, it's citrus, and it's very refined without smelling dated. I have worn this and I've gotten compliments, and then when I tell people it's a different version of Chanel No. 5, they give me this look of like, girl, my grandmother wore that. Well, this is not your grandmother's perfume, okay? This is our new and improved version. Although I do have the original Chanel No. 5 because Amy Winehouse wore it. And if you want that soapy feel, but you want something that's a little bit more floral and fresh, we're going with Pure Extreme by mikf. This is still going to be sheer, musky, and soapy, but have a lot more florals in it in the way of rose and jasmine and gardenia. You know that smell when someone had a really luxurious bubble bath and they open the bathroom door and that beautiful scent just wafts into the hallway? It's not the actual bubble bath itself, but rather the scent that lingers in the air of all the culmination of their products. This is what that's going to give you. This is so elegant and this is so refined, but it's so perfect for every day and is subtle enough that you could wear it in close quarters and not offend anybody. You will just smell super clean, like you had an amazing everything shower. And like you're rich. It just smells rich. I won't explain. And if you want something along those soapy vibes that still have a little bit of floral but feels a little bit more lush and green, we're going with Ceramic by Andrea Mac. This one has Lily of the Valley that once again is going to give that floral yet slightly cold and metallic feel. It has the note of green leaves and apple, giving a little bit of sweetness, but also a very watery and refreshing spring day sort of feel. This smells like at the end of the day when you've removed your makeup and you're cleaning your face with really luxurious cosmetics at a bougie hotel. Hotels always smell so good and so clean, so imagine room service just came and freshened up your room and you're using all of their luxurious products on your face. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting. There's also this subtle element going on of almost a mineral clay-like scent. Like, you know when you do pottery and you have clay on your hands? Imagine that with really expensive cosmetics at a really nice hotel. Super unique. I don't have anything like it in my collection, and Andrea Mac can do no wrong in my mind. I'm sorry, their house is just stunning. So that's all I've got for you today, friends. I hope that gives you some good ideas next time you are traveling, or if you work in a job where you just really can't wear a heavy fragrance. We have options, and although a lot of these sound quite similar, they do have some distinct characteristics that I was trying to highlight, so sorry if it felt a little bit redundant, but they all fit within the same category. They're all cousins. Do you guys have any specific fragrances that you wear when you travel? And if so, comment them down below. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next Saturday, 10 a.m. PST. And until then, take care of yourselves, my friends.